Welcome to the Practice Podcast, a show created by lawyers to help lawyers in life and business without all the complicated lawyer language. Let's welcome Bast Amron founders and your hosts, Jeff Bast and Brett Amron.
Hi, Nelson. Are you here?
Hi, Nelson.
Oh! I don't know.
Oh, my God. I hope we can hear that.
Say hello. Just say hello on the microphone.
Hello. Wow.
There we
I
go.
like the
Could you
voice.
hear-
Very
could you hear
deep,
that?
very intense. Good morning, Nelson.
Good morning, Nelson. Happy
morning,
Monday,
Jeffrey.
Brett. We're recording this on a Monday.
Yes.
How was your weekend? Tell me really, though. Don't give me the, it was good.
It was exceptionally great.
Really?
No,
Dude,
but it was
anything you
good.
wanna share?
It was good. It was, the weather is just brutal for running. It's great for swimming because you're in the water, although the water might be warm this time of year.
It actually has
But
not been as warm as...
to run like in the humidity and the heat is tough. So
Yeah.
it's just
Is
and
there
you get to this
anything you
point.
can do for that? I mean,
Listen,
do you run with one
everybody
of those-
deals with it differently, right?
one of those
so-
cool towels or
No,
whatever. It
help
doesn't
because
last,
no,
right?
because I lose a lot of water and electrolytes,
Right.
so I have to take in so much, and it's really hard to keep it for me anyway. I'm obviously, if I had a coach or I had somebody that could tell
Right.
me exactly, I try. I just bought some new stuff, and I'm trying
like salt tablets or that kind of stuff.
So I have some of that. I have some chews that have electrolytes in them and sugar that gives you that. I eat a little bit on the way, depending. This is a long run on a Saturday, right? And I bought this new powder, which is supposed to have, it's got more calories, it's got more stuff in it, more electrolytes. And so, but it was just, even the people I was passing, we looked at each other like, good luck,
Yeah.
and I saw more people walking periodically
Right.
throughout their run than normal. So it's
And
just,
do you
this time of year
wear,
is tough.
because I'm a long sleeve dry fit guy. Are you wearing long sleeve dry
No.
fits or short sleeve?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. So your skin has exposed to the sun, but at that hour,
It is, but
it's more about heat.
right.
It's
So
not
it's more
sun as much heat, just general heat.
correct. So on a Saturday, I'm not getting up as early as I do during the week until I'm doing when I get into training, I do super long runs and I'll go much earlier. But so the sun comes up towards the end of my run, but it's not at peak, so I'm not really particularly worried about my skin at that time. And there's still
Right.
plenty of shade, but it's not. It's just
So basically, other than nutrition and running earlier or at night,
even that, it just doesn't matter. Like I ran this morning. It felt better this morning, to be honest, than it had.
yeah. Well, we're in September, right?
But
So it should.
last week was just the whole week. It was
Yeah.
just brutal.
Wow.
You wake up at 5 to go out at 5:30 or 6. The temperature already feels like it's in the 90s with like 70, 80% humidity. That's tough. It's like running in a sauna, basically.
Wow. That's amazing how, I'm learning how much nutrition is such an
yeah.
important part, but
Huge.
it's so individualized because this weekend I was free diving and I cramped up early on, my calf cramp, which is just the worst.
Yep.
The only nice thing is when you have fins on, it's easy to grab a fin and
Right.
pull it back.
Pull 'em back,
to
yeah.
stretch it.
Yeah.
But, it was when I was getting onto the boat. So thankfully I was on a platform when I cramped, but it's so dangerous.
Is
cramping
that
up.
from
And so
lack
I don't know.
of nutrition and electrolytes? Or is that sometimes it's just prone, that your foot is so prone in a certain position? I've had that running and hiking and
I have cramped in free diving, doing swims and things like that. Not my regular swimming, 'cause with fins.
Right.
I don't really cramp when we're swimming. Although I do cramp sometimes when I'm pushing in a pool. If I'm swimming in a pool, when I push off.
Yeah.
My friends were saying that maybe I'm drinking too much water and not getting enough electrolytes
Electrolytes are
because the
super
water's
important.
just running through me. And
Correct.
I do go to the bathroom 50 times a day these
That's
days.
the old man bladder. We have it. Yes,
so
we
I don't
all
know
have
if it's too little water, too much water. It's
So you
just-
need electrolytes.
Yeah.
Sodium
Right.
is important, not just electrolytes, but sodium is important too. Like I lose a ton, so I
Right.
have powder for that too.
Maybe we should turn this into a nutrition podcast.
But it's also
So-
building it up, not the day of, but before.
Right.
And you have to maintain that
Right.
consistency.
Yeah.
The only other thing I would say is I always thought, because I was cramping up during long races or not long hikes, but long races, I would cramp up my legs. And I went to a physical therapist for an issue and I was telling her about it. And she said, you need to strengthen your legs more.
Yeah.
And so I was like, but I run, I hike, I bike, I do it.
Right.
And she's like, yeah. yeah. You need to strengthen your legs and you
Right.
need to strengthen your smaller muscles.
Yeah, my calves probably could use some strength.
Right,
Because
so
I do a
that's-
lot more core stuff.
Exactly. And
right.
so that's just one sort of tip that I received. And ever since then, I've really worked on it and I haven't really had the issues. So
I like it. All right. Okay. Well, I had a question for you today, but I feel like that was more of
that was more of it?
Yeah.
Well, what was
The,
your question? Do you want to just pose it and then we can,
I don't know. No, because if I ask it now,
you give me time to think
you're not
about
going to want me to ask it next time. You're going to say, no, I didn't like that question.
Well, is it you think it'd be a long answer?
All right, I'll ask you.
Well,
What
that
are
was
you,
e-
what
that
are you
was
most
e- that
what are
was
you most
easy.
afraid of? Because
You.
I know you're a strong, powerful man who fears not.
Besides you
What scares you?
and Nelson.
What scares Brett Amron? So you may not want to reveal that.
So like when I close my eyes at night, what scares me?
I mean, clearly the creature that lives under your bed scares you, I'm sure, but
Wait, there's a creature that sleeps under my bed now. Oh, now I'm screwed.
you're aware.
What scares me?
What are you afraid of? Not what scares you. But
No, I
what
got
are
you.
what are
Fear,
afraid
right? Fear. I got it.
What are you
right?
afraid of?
So I have tried over the years to temper that and focus more on the fact that fear is an emotion. Danger is real, right? But that doesn't mean that fear doesn't creep into my brain, into my head,
Right.
like normal people, right? Like anybody would have that. I'd say failure, probably, and that
Fear
is
of
on
failure?
a bunch of different levels,
Right.
I don't have so much failure with firm or career, generally speaking, because we've been doing it for a long time. And like, I don't, in the beginning, it was like, oh, well, maybe today's the day when, no one's going to call
Right.
and we're done. So I don't feel like that anymore. But I feel like there is individually, like in a particular case, if I have a hearing coming up or a deposition or a meeting or something, right? I don't want the perceived, and I use failure in quotes, to happen. So what does that mean? That means I'm going to prepare to avoid that.
That's our topic today.
Like how
preparation.
I did that.
Yeah.
Like I did that. And by the way, that goes with physical training too, right? For a race or a hike or something like that. I'm going to train for that because I don't want to fail at that. And then in life, same thing, right? Like just generally keeping myself trying as best I can be healthy and fit physically, also mentally, and then working on relationships too.
Right. So if you went I'm just staying on the topic of failure as a fear.
Yeah.
If you were going through like when you're in a race, there's no real failure. Like you win it or you whatever. But
Well,
I
you
guess
win
there's some
'cause you
endurance
finish.
challenges. That's what I was going to ask. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
is it about a fear of not finishing? And then if you had an endurance challenge and you didn't finish, which have you had this?
No.
Okay. So you're undefeated so far, right? No, but if you didn't finish in your mind, do you think you would be, how do you think you would handle that? What would be your...
So, it's a good question. I'm not sure. I would think I'd be hardened to go back and do it again or try it,
Right.
try again. And maybe because I finished all my challenges, maybe I'm not challenging myself enough, some would say, right?
Right.
You got to
Or-
push yourself to make yourself better.
You only learn from mistakes or failure.
Right. Or
Right.
those are experiences that just didn't work out the way you thought they were going to work out or wanted it initially. So maybe it is better to take a challenge that you can't finish the first time and you have to go back and say, okay, well, what happened? And prepare more and prepare differently. And
Well, that was going to be
Change your
my
mindset.
question is like, is it the kind of thing where you would be like, damn, and just be mad at yourself? Or is it the kind of thing where do you think you would say, okay, all right, I didn't finish this time, but here's what I need.
well, I'd probably have a little bit of like, damn,
frustration.
Yeah, but then, listen, I think you said it the other day in a podcast, like the gratitude for being able to do it and participate in it. And I always want to finish. I always want to achieve what I set out to do. But, if there's a time when I can't do that, am I going to just quit and never do it again? No.
Right.
No. I might be in that moment like, well, this sucks. But no, I'd go back to the drawing board and figure it out and try again and work harder the next time and figure out why,
Right.
So,
But the best way to mitigate against that fear of failure is preparation.
Yeah,
and this
right.
is in
Right.
physical challenges and in certainly at work.
It really applies to anything, right? It applies to school for kids. It applies to work for us. It applies to life in general, relationships and physical fitness and mental fit. I mean, it's just preparation, right, for everything, right? Really applies. So, in my view. But before we jump into that, what's your fear?
Oh, mine is basically losing my faculties. Like I have this fear of dementia and becoming like losing your memories. Because to me, all we have is our collective, like the memory of our life, you know, at any given moment. And then, you know, not being able to remember people or experiences and being a burden on my family. And so
is that a more recent?
Like no, I mean, it's something I'm, you know,
because in your 30s, you don't think about that, right?
Exactly. You know, mid 50s, I'm starting to, you know, I'm on the shorter end of the.
I disagree. We're in midlife. We're in the middle.
That's true. My plan is 100, 110. That's what I was saying 100, but now it seems close. It's only 44 years away. So 110.
But think about that. That's 44 years. It's a long time.
It seems like a long time, but these first 56 have been super fast. They have felt fast.
I know. I agree.
Of course.
You got to look back and say, look at all. And I'm with you. I'm in the same. I'm a little younger, but not much. And it's the same thing.
Right. So if you have 46 left, and that seems like a lot, but I want to spend those doing things, being active, physically active, and also being mentally active, you know, being able to talk to my family and my grandkids, maybe great-grandkids, whatever it is. And so I'm just cognizant of decline in general, and I'm working hard to maintain physically and mentally, you know.
Yeah, as am I, and I agree. That is something I think about now more than I used to as well. What do you think was it that triggered that for you, that thought? Because again, in your 30s, you're not thinking of that. And even in your 40s, you're not really thinking of that unless you have family or friends that have gone through that.
I mean, I haven't really encountered it firsthand with, you know, my family or friends, but I have friends who've had, you know, parents decline. I've seen some of that. I remember my grandmother at nearing the end of her life in decline. I've read about it. And then I think just at this age, we start to reflect on life and longevity and focused on longevity, as I know you are. Not just longevity, but living a long and healthy, active life. I don't want to live a long time.
No, it's not the number. You know, it's not the years. It's how you live those years, whatever they are.
Quality. And so... And then as you decline, I notice memory lapses where it's not where I forget something, but where I know a name of a singer or an actor or whatever. And I know this name and it's right there.
You can't think of it.
And I just can't access that file. And I know that's not exactly how memory works anyways, but that is frustrating to me. Yeah. And I've been told by whatever neurologist or whatever that that's not a sign of that type of decline, but you know, that's a normal, but it's still decline. Yeah. I don't remember things like, you know, those like trivial things.
Something tangible that you can see and feel. The same thing. You walk into a room and you're like, I know I came in here for a reason. And now I don't remember why.
I also think that
Nelson's laughing at us. Not because I think he's laughing at us, because I think he knows that's true.
And he also knows that we're not going to get to our topic.
We are.
Which is this may not be the first time we did that. But I believe that, you know, technology is worsening this problem because I used to remember phone numbers, and I could tell you my buddy Mike's driver's license plate from college, you know, CEI 50K. Mine was 90 DQR 95T. Like,
I'm going to blow you away.
Like things in my head that are
remember,
silly.
You went to University of Florida, as did I. Do you remember the pizza joint called 5-Star?
Yes,
5-Star Pizza.
Yes.
We ordered so much 5-Star. I still remember the number.
Right, of course.
375-5600. Right. Like, I still can remember that number. If you asked me what one of my son's or my daughter's cell phone number is, I could not tell you.
So I think that, and I always joke with Jolly that I blame her for my memory because I can't remember people's names. It's because
she's there to help you.
Yeah, she's so good at that. That part of my brain has just shut down, like atrophied. Like I don't have to remember someone's name because I have my wife, and there is such a thing as collective memory where you start to learn like what the other person. And she's also really good with phone numbers and directions. And I always say that I have this luxury of being married to someone who I trust implicitly, and even that when we go to a restaurant, I barely have to look at a menu. I don't even have to look at a menu because I trust this person who I love so much. Jolly, thank you. She'll order for me. What's that?
She listens. Podcast good.
Yeah, that's right. Good. Let's see if she hears this one.
Yeah,
but I do think we're losing an aspect of our memory because we no longer have to remember even directions.
Right.
I intentionally do not use Waze or whatever when I'm going somewhere, when I'm going certain places, because I don't want to rely on that all the time, especially like to get home from work. I see people that do it like when you're going somewhere where you know exactly.
Sometimes I do it in Miami.
If you're in a rush or you're worried about
traffic,
traffic,
right.
I get that.
But question for you. So if you're going, let's say you're going to dinner, with another couple or several, whatever it is, do you ask Chalet, hey, can you remind me their kids' names? Do you do that?
I might. There are certain circumstances
where are their kids in school? Like, just give me a rundown, because to remember, right? If you haven't seen them in a while, or do you?
I will sometimes do that, but I also will tell my friends.
Yeah.
And I say this is an announcement, public service announcement to all my friends.
Right.
You don't have to remember my kids' names or where they go to school. Okay.
Right.
It's not, unless you're one of my, close friends.
Right, exactly.
I get it.
Right.
But I have enough kids to keep track of. I'm not going to keep track of like my friends' kids and where they, especially now in this college age, it's impossible to remember where everyone goes to school.
Yeah.
I mean,
but I'll do that.
So
I'll do that from time to time. Like, just, hey, remind me where they're in school again. Okay, good. I got it.
Right.
And, just because, and you're right, like, there's no shame in it, but I still just I don't want there to be any issue. Like, oh, wow, you didn't remember, And I don't think most of the people that we would see would care, because they're probably thinking the same thing like you just said. Like, I can't keep track of all. I just can't.
To me, my friend has 3 kids. I know one of them's at Emory. I don't remember which one or whatever.
Exactly.
Like that kind of thing.
Exactly. But I know you have 3 kids.
Right.
So that's good. It's a good start.
Right. Sometimes was it 2? Do you have 3 kids? How many? Oh, well, I asked somebody recently, somebody who had twins. I'm like, wait, but one of them's, they have one and a pair of twins. And I was like, wait, but you have 2 out of the house now, right? And he goes, well, the twins, they're not. And I'm like, oh yeah, good point, Dad. And like it just.
I feel like we have so much going on in our lives, in each of our kids' lives, in our families' lives, in friends. I mean, as you age, it's sort of hard to keep track. Well, no, thankfully. But it's just hard to keep track of all that. And you're right, technology has aided us in some ways, but I think what some of our things we've had to use, some of our brain power has changed, right? It may hurt some things, but it may benefit in some ways too. And so that's why there's all these, I know people that will play some games on their computer for their brain.
A lot of brain games. Yeah.
I want to read because I want, and I want to think. So I'll listen to some podcasts that will make me think. I will read, whether it's a book or articles or, and things like that, and talk to people about interesting topics that are not in my daily life because I just want to keep using my brain to make sure it keeps working. And I agree with you on the dementia side. I mean, I've had it in my family, and Lauren has had it in her family, and I've seen it firsthand. And so it is something that, you're right, it is something that I also think about all the time.
Scary. To me, that is scary.
And the diet, the exercise, like all that stuff.
And
the relationships and like all that stuff, I'm hopeful is helpful down the road, but we won't know and for a while.
Okay, true. So all you can do,
prepare.
Yeah, all you can do for these, both of these failures. I mean, there's a certain amount of dementia, mental. Some of it's genetic. Some of it's random, whatever cause. But some of this is prepreration for life, certainly and the fear of failure.
And one of the books we both read, talked about preparing for the last decade.
Right.
Of your life, and that every day is preparation for the last decade of your life. And that's the longevity component, right?
Yeah.
And I agree. I mean, I think that that's super important. So preparing in your daily life for work and what comes in front of you is super important.
Yeah. So how do you prepare for, if it's a big meeting, we're talking about, let's turn it to the law side.
Yeah, work side.
How do you prepare for a big meeting or a big court hearing?
So for me, I like to ingest as much information as I can. And speaking of, memory, and this has probably gotten, worse over time, is I need repetition. And I usually I like a story.
Yeah.
And I'll remember a story versus just fact. I'll remember facts, but I'll remember facts in a story. It's almost like a song, right? You can remember a song from when you first heard it when you were a kid today because of the rhythm and everything like that, right? And the words and lyrics and everything. So I can remember a story in a fact pattern, and so I try to put everything in that. I will go back and I will sort of study whatever information I can get my hands on, whether it's documents from a client, documents from opposing counsel, are there transcripts to read, and just take in as much as possible and distill that down to the important components of what we need.
So when you're reading these things, are you taking notes? Are you preparing an outline? Or are you just reading and digesting?
It depends. Depends on what our team's role, like who's on the team with me, right? And what their roles are. So if I know somebody is preparing an outline for me or for the team to work on, I'm not going to do that other than highlight and maybe take some some keynotes. I'm not going to prepare an outline. I'm going to take some keynotes of things and highlight them to identify for purposes of either augmenting an outline, modifying, or whatever it is. So I'll do that along the way. But if I'm preparing an outline, I will take notes, and I'll start right away.
Right. So if you're preparing an outline and you have the luxury of time, because a lot of this is dependent on the amount of time we have, because sometimes we don't have a lot of time.
Right.
Are you reading things and going through them and then coming back to them and reading them a second time so you can, because you said repetition is important.
So sometimes you see the same things in several different areas, and so that's helpful. Sometimes it is going back to the notes or the highlights. Sometimes it's sitting in a meeting and, with the team and fact-checking each other and going back and forth on that, and that's super helpful.
Right.
And running down issues and ideas, and that can be helpful as well, and that's part of the repetition, right?
Right.
It's reading it, digesting it, and then verbalizing it and having a dialogue back and forth.
You just keyed on the important piece that I was going to raise, and that is talking about it, talking through the issue. If I have an important argument or presentation or whatever it is, if I explain it to someone, maybe someone, I love like telling Jaleh about something, a case or an argument that I have, or the kids or whatever, because explaining it to someone who has no involvement requires you to sort of structure it, organize it in an important way, and break it down into understandable bites or whatever, which really is what we do, in my opinion.
Yeah.
We translate what happened in 30 depositions and, 2 years of business interactions, a dispute, and we translate it into like you said, a story for a judge or a jury or whatever. So I love, and I think even talking through with the team, talking through the argument helps me because I'm kind of preparing it. Sometimes I'll say the thing that what we're going to argue, I'll argue it to the lawyer, not in like a formal preparation. We'll do that too. Right. But I mean, just talking through it.
Well, I know you do the same thing I do, and we do that here with the team. I want people to challenge me. I want people to tell me, what did I miss? If there's another creative way to come at this, I want to hear about it, And so that's part of the prep too, which is I don't want to get so locked in on an argument so as to miss and have blinders on, right? And miss something. I want someone else who, may have a different idea, different thought, come at it a different way, would say, yeah, what about this?
Yeah.
And sometimes, no, that's not going to work here. But sometimes, oh, yeah, wow, okay, let's do that. And it augments the position of the argument and helps, right? But that sort of teamwork and sort of bouncing ideas and thoughts and everything like that to me, is super helpful. Whether it's here at the firm or, like you said, talking at home with your spouse or your kids or talking to somebody else about an issue, so you can sort of get that different perspective, which I think is helpful.
Yeah. Sometimes even writing down the argument, because a lot of us we'll prepare an outline or a presentation or whatever, and it sounds fine. It seems fine when you read it, but when you say it out loud to someone, you realize, oh, that doesn't make sense.
That doesn't sound great.
It doesn't sound right, or whatever it is. Yeah. And the only real way to do that, you could read it out loud to yourself on your own, which is one thing, but saying it to someone else is just such a more effective way of issue spotting and, like you said, identifying blind spot.
And one of the things I love to do is, and I know people around here, sometimes they get a little frustrated with me, but when we have an issue that seems so obvious,
all right, what am I missing? Something.
How do we lose this?
Yeah.
And I will walk around here and I will ask people, okay, here's the issue. Tell me how I lose this. And they're like, you can't. I said, no. Right. I want to know. I want a red team effectively to come in. I want you to
argue the other side.
Yeah, tell me what I'm missing, because, I want to make sure.
Nothing's that easy, right?
Yeah, nothing's that easy, right? You're going to walk in and they're going to come in with a million issues or whatever, the killer issue or document or something I'm missing. And I'd like to know that.
Yeah, there's a business exercise that's like that. If we wanted to, shut this business down,
right?
Well, how would we do that?
Right.
Like to identify.
Right. What would our competitor do?
You want to kill this company.
To kill our company.
What would you do to kill the company? And then obviously do the opposite. But use that as a tool for identifying areas of needed improvement or changes to processes or whatever. Same thing.
Yeah. So for you, is there anything different that we've talked about in terms of prep, whether it be for a deposition, a mediation, a hearing, or something as simple as, candidly, like going to a client meeting?
Yeah. I think, one, the important thing is prepare. Like, don't never, ever show up cold. And it doesn't even, I've told this to my kids when they're like invited for a job interview or have to call a professor to ask a question. I was like, listen, if you want, write a little outline on a little piece of paper or on your phone and use that to call them. Because sometimes when you're making a simple call or an important conversation with a friend who wronged you or whatever, there's certain points you want to make, and you want to make sure you get those points across. And if you don't write them down in the heat of the moment, it's very difficult to remember those things, and that's why I always tell our lawyers too, because we have some. I actually had one. It was a law student that I was mentoring, and she was it was through one of the pro bono programs, and I said I was going to let her argue a motion. And it was for the first time ever. Actually, this is the actual court. They have authority to actually argue in court through this pro bono program. And she said, "Well, listen, what I did is I record my outline, and I find that helpful." And I was like, okay, I appreciate that, but I want you to write it down too. Because when you're in that argument, your heart is thumping and the judge asks you a question and you're trying to answer the question, and then you get, maybe you answer the question well, but now you got to get back on track to what was I supposed to say? Right. The last thing you want to be doing is relying upon your memory. So to me, part of preparation is preparing your own little life preserver in the form of an outline. But then the flip side is not being too wedded to it. So if you only know the argument, then you're like flipping pages, and we've all been there, like where we asked a question and we're taken out, and then we're trying to find where we were. And so I do write out a full narrative.
Yeah, sure.
And then from there, I take that and turn it into an outline. That's typically how I'll do it, like bullets of highlight points that I want to make sure I make these 5 points. But yeah, it also depends on how much time we have. Like that's one of the limiting factors for us is I'm going from one meeting to the next. And that's why it's taken me only 30 years to figure this out, is not allow my things to be scheduled back to back to back, because it's impossible for me to when I hang up a call and have to get on another call immediately, it's not only am I have to find my notes from that call or whatever, but just transitioning your brain. It doesn't work that well to do that. So I try to put at least 15 minutes in between calls so that I have time to transition.
At least time to take a breath. That's okay. Now I got to think, okay, what's this call about? What's the issue of this call?
Right. And not to mention biology, by the way, so that I'm like not having to start a call, having to go to the bathroom. That's like the worst feeling.
Yeah.
So
I obviously agree with all of that. There's all of the other stuff, right? There's the substance, but then there's the other stuff in the preparation. Like even something as simple as if you're not in town and let's say you're traveling, you have to go to a hearing. Okay, where's my hotel? Where's the courthouse? How long does it take to get there? All that.
Do they allow cell phones? Can I bring my luggage?
Right. What's the local rule on bringing cell phones and laptops and my bag and all? That's part of it, right? Because if you get to the courthouse, because you can't find it, you get there 5 minutes before and there's a really long line, or you get there and you're going through security and they say, "Oh, I'm so sorry, you can't bring that." Yeah. Now what? So that's part of the preparation.
100%.
Younger lawyers may tend to not think about that stuff. Yeah. But maybe it's as important as the substance, because you're setting your frame of mind. Yeah. And if you're going to do that, then you're going to be prepared for the hearing too. Right. And your mindset. And it's like, okay, well, how long? And by the way, if I've never been in front of a judge before, I might see if that judge has more stuff on the calendar that morning. Yeah.
If they're early.
If I'm traveling, it's going to be the same day. But if it's local and not been in front of a judge, then sometimes I've gone, and watched the judge to just see how they manage their courtroom and whatever. So that's also preparation.
I agree. I even did that. And I encourage my kids to do it. Like if you're taking the SAT or whatever, where are you taking it? At Miami-Dade College. Do you know where, like where in the building? Like where's the why don't we go there? Why don't we go there the day before? Just so you know your way there. Right. You see what the story is. Like I'm so anal, it's like sharpen your pencils. Yeah, but write with them a little bit so they don't, sometimes the first time you write with a pencil, it snaps. Yeah. So sharpen them and write with them. All these things about preparation. I remember studying for the LSAT. Mm-hmm. My friends all took the class. We all took the class. And then I took a different tact with the preparation. All I did was test. I just did a practice test every day. And I tried to do them at the time that we were actually going to be taking the actual test, so that I would get accustomed to like the timing, and I think that was, the right approach. And they always say that study in the same conditions that you're going to take the test. Like, don't study at 3 a.m. if you're going to take the test at 9 a.m.
Right.
It's not really the best. Obviously, we all pulled all-nighters, but you want to try to recreate the conditions where you're going to do this thing. But I think, it's slightly, we're making different points, but equally important is be ready for, it's the same reason I want to get to the airport early, because I freaking hate the feeling of running through an airport to get, try to make my flight. And I like the club,
right?
Yeah. So, well, and it's like the same thing with the test. I like to, it's about comfort. You're creating your comfort for yourself.
What kind
That's
of
what
frame
preparation
of mind
is, right?
Well,
for your run.
Well, you doing the hard part before you go either into a courtroom, into a meeting, into a race, whether it's a swim or a run or whatever it is, you're doing the hard work before, so that when you show up, it's like, I got this. I'm ready.
Yeah, it's all performance.
I'm ready.
Can I perform?
Right.
And all the other, what you're doing is eliminating the variables.
Right.
You're minimizing the risk of the variables, because the variables they're so numerous, you can't possibly anticipate every single one of them. The mood of the judge or what the opposing counsel is going to do. You cannot anticipate all those. But you can prepare and control some of them. The ones that you can control, the amount of sleep you got, the amount of, how prepared you are, how organized, your binder is, and where your notes are, where you're going to park, what are you going to eat, like how long are you going to be there. I remember, me, I'm not a trial lawyer, but we had my one jury trial, like my one of 2 jury trial experiences. I lost so much weight. I didn't eat. I didn't know, and it didn't even occur to me.
Right. So something on that is like, I always make sure that I keep something in my bag just in case. Like I always.
That's preparation.
It's just,
and water bottle.
Well,
for me too. Water bottle.
Right, and water, of course. Yeah. But that's preparation, right? And even, I think you mentioned interviews and preparing for interviews. I mean, I know people that game out the interviews. I've done it with people. Like, these are the areas, let me run through it. Here's my answer. Like, what do you think? And they've gamed it.
Yeah.
Like, because
you should.
There's nothing wrong with that. That's preparing.
Right.
Like, it's, and so if you care, then you should prepare. Wow. But I feel like that's...
Yeah, you're making me realize.
I just coined that. We need to put that on the website. If you care, you will prepare.
Right. I'm being interviewed today in a group, and I really need to prepare my...
See? You see that? No. I mean, but that, again, if you want to achieve something, if you want to do something, you got to prepare, right?
Yeah.
Other than, just going to the fridge and getting food. I mean, whatever. But the
even
point
that.
I guess. No, but the point is that if it's something that you care about and you're going to take the time to do, well, then do it well.
Yeah.
And so in order to do it well, you need to prepare.
Yeah. And I heard Chris Paul say, I think I may have said this on the podcast before.
Fellow vegan, by the way.
He spoke, vegan.
Yes.
He spoke at an event I was at, and he said, how you do anything is how you do everything.
Correct.
And I subscribe to that.
Big or small, doesn't matter, right? Like, you just prepare and think about, just think about it, and not just go on cruise control and say, yeah, I'm just going to show up and it'll be fine.
So the answer to how you prepare is just do it, right?
Right.
No, but prepare for as much as you can, within,
just
you have to
time.
measure cost and benefits, obviously. I mean, you don't have to do the thing I said about going to the test center for every test. Yeah. But if it's in a new place, like you said, a courthouse, it's good to have a sense of
the benefit
where you're going,
yes,
how much time you need, and what's security line going to be like, and technology.
So the benefit we have today with technology, you mentioned that, is, you can look on Google Map and say, okay,
how long is it going to?
The courthouse is here. How long is it going to take me to walk there? Or Uber, like, what am I in a city? Is Uber going to be, easy to get? Do I know anybody who's from there that I can ask?
What's this judge like?
Right. That's preparation. You don't actually have to go and watch them. It would be great if you could do that, but sometimes you can't. So then you have to ask the question. And that's part of the preparation, that, in order to show up and be your best self and put your best foot forward, no matter what it is you're doing, like you said, whether it's big or small, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, I love it too.
Yeah, prepare.
And there's no life hack for it, right? I mean, there's hacks with tech and there's some help, but in today's world, everyone wants to do things faster. There's no hack.
For preparation.
For hard work, there's no hack. You just have to put in the time in order to get there.
And practice. I'm ready. You ready?
I'm prepared.
I feel prepared. I'm prepared for anything. Nelson is prepared. He's already tying on his running shoes. Brett, this was fun. I enjoyed it.
Always.
If you enjoyed this episode,
Of course you did. Anyone who's listening enjoyed this episode.
If you made it this far, I think you probably did. I don't know. Give us a 5-star review, or just leave us any review, even if it's critical. We want feedback. We're open to feedback. But share the show, follow us, and we'll see you next time.
Bye. Thanks, Nelson. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
For more information on this show and other resources, visit fastamron.com and connect with us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram @FastAmron.